it's a sure thing. Change, change. Expect a miracle change. Watch me change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Now do change.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Well, hello everyone. We are back live with Spirit Cafe. Yay! I'm Barbara Jean.
Happy 2024. I'm Cheryl Rogers.
And yes, ditto on that. Happy 2024. I'm Mark Dupuis.
Well, we're so excited to be back. And speaking of change, that opening song, I guess we got to add another visual, add our new host, Mark Dupuis, to the pictures on there. We're so grateful that you're here, Mark, and we're just so happy to have you as part of our team. Well, let's begin with the land acknowledgement. We are honored to be meeting on this land that many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across Turtle Island call home. We acknowledge and thank the original caretakers and knowledge keepers. And we give thanks to all the Indigenous peoples, recorded and unrecorded, who have shared responsibility for this land. We recognize our ultimate oneness and acknowledge our reality, both past and present, and we commit to moving forward in a spirit of mutual cooperation. We acknowledge that we are one. Marg, would you like to introduce our guest?
Well, I'm just going to have to wing it because the bio for Charlene has disappeared. However, I'm very confident that Charlene will do a good job of introducing herself. I know that Charlene went from yoga to being a politician and is herself. Charlene is Charlene. Please come on down, Charlene.
That's exactly right. Yoga to politics. That's an interesting segue.
I don't think it's a regular path.
I'm not sure.
No, it's not something you would normally associate one with the other, right?
That's right.
But I do love that in our pre-conversation we spoke about really you're coming onto this show as Charlene,
Yes.
and that's just a part of who you are and what you do. But there's so many other things that you do and that you enjoy and that you participate in.
That's it. And a lot of people, right? Our title, we get caught up in it, and it means something. It has value, like there's degrees and whatnot on the wall. Like all of these things have value, but we can really get caught up in it. And so yeah, I'm a longtime yogi, 30 years practice, about 12, 13 years as a teacher through recovery methodologies, more specifically. And then second time as a municipal counselor. And of course, I had some other really cool and fun jobs along the way too, that I've learned. All of those nuggets of learning and things I did has just like created these baselines and these steps for right where I'm at. And I think in the position I'm in as a local leader, you know, sometimes people forget I'm just Charlene. You know, it's the title comes first, and then there's this expectation or this thing between us, and I'm like, no, I'm still just Charlene, right? Like, remember you were in my yoga class, and remember, you know, we went for a walk, and like, I'm just me.
I'm just Charlene. I'm just a human being, just like you, putting my pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah,
And I love the way Mark introduced you. Just Charlene. That was perfect. I love. No, we were talking a little bit when we were in the back room here before we started about recovery and how, you know, coming out of COVID and everything, life has been a bit of a challenge for most people. And I love what you said about changing the world by participation. So what are your thoughts around the recovery that people are going through or need to go through?
Well, yeah, recovery. I think that is like the number one key word that I think in 2023, whether or not people realized it, it was kind of happening. But I think 2024 really should bring in more of that and being active and participating in our recovery. I was just talking to my cousin the other night, and it's been about in this moment. I know this will be recorded and other days will come, but in this moment, we're about 1.5 years outside of COVID, which is not a long time. And, you know, whatever happened to people through that, it was a shock. People are angry. They were scared. There's a lived trauma there that's happened. Mm-hmm. And when we go through something as large as that, for us to just sort of like flick on the light and everybody run back to work, it's not working.
Right.
It's not working. And from what I'm gathering, listening and feeling in my own is like to kind of have that steady kind of energy that we usually run in. It's like ping ponging. We've got a lot of energy. Oh, I need a nap. Yeah. So I needed a nap today. Like, you know, like, oh, why do I need a nap? Like it's like a skipping stone. We just don't have that smoothness yet. Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. It's okay.
I wonder how many people put a name to the fact that we lived through a trauma.
I don't know. And
I know when you said that, I went, oh my goodness, yes, we lived through a trauma. So thank you for those powerful words.
I was like, thank you. Thank you. We lived through a collective, global, societal trauma. Mm-hmm. Just come through a trauma that, you know, none of us saw coming. Yeah. There's an analogy. I think we chatted about it in the last one. I'll just run through it like hyper quick. It's sort of like a vision I saw that really sums it up for me last year. And when I talk to people about it, I think it kind of let them off the hook a little because they're like, it's only me who feels like this because everything's good, right? And so we need to go like, no, actually not yet. Like, you're still in recovery. We're good. Mm-hmm. So kind of like on the 400 series, you know, there's a 100-car pileup. It's one of those, and it's still kind of happening. And the EMS team all kind of drive up to that first line of cars, you know, and you're that person. You get out of your vehicle and you're a bit ragtagged and, you know, a bump and maybe a little blood, but you're okay, but you're not. Like limping. I'm like, ma'am, we're going to check you out. We need you to sit down. No, I'm okay. I got to go. Ma'am, we need you to sit down. We need to check your vitals. We're going to take care of you. No, I'm late for work. Mm-hmm. Was 2023 to me. Mm-hmm. And 10 more steps later, the person falls over, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, and that's quite thought-provoking because it does feel, you know, like we just got up and went kind of thing. You know, some of us never stopped. Some of us just continued and continued to continue. And some of us just got up and went. And it's like, whoa, like, we haven't even looked at what that time was all about, and really come to terms, I think, with it all. Because there's also still so much, what is the word? Something ambiguity. I can't think of the word. Yeah, thank you. Around all that, and we're not going to go into that because, we know that's contentious and we could be taken off the air because it's happened before. But just really not understanding and not having a true grasp of what it was all about, and the ability to give it some form of, and I know this is, like a cliche, but some form of closure. And I don't mean, that, I mean that on an individual level. We all need that so that we can actually say, okay, I can put this over here and now I'm good. Now I can move on.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's any moving on from it in that way, because I think the trauma's so deep and it was so surprising and shocking that I think we're going to be finding our way, because we can't go back. Because I think that's what most people think. I want to get back to normal. Well, normal doesn't exist and never did. And we're not going backwards. We're going forward. So what is the new reality that we're birthing at this point? I think we're in a birthing stage. And I don't know about all of us, but I know some of us here have had children, and we know how painful that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that really goes even with my analogy, like just where, like, there's those spikes and those drops, right? Just in that birth, like in that labor, right? And post labor, you need a lot of recovery. I think we need to be so conscious with our own self and those around us. I am seeing in my own circles and people I work with, I am seeing a lot of conscientiousness. I am seeing people giving a lot of space to other people, kind of showing up for stuff or not, or not having the energy, being late on a deadline. Like I'm still seeing a lot of space that colleagues and people in the community are giving each other. I know that's not happening at every minute everywhere, but I'm seeing that, and I'm happy to see that. I think that's huge action. Like, give people a break.
Yeah, absolutely.
Charlene, you spoke earlier when we were having a bit of a chat about different food choices that you made during the lockdown, and now going back into sort of normal life and saying it's okay that we did this. Did you want to speak to that? Almost like I don't want to put words in your mouth, like forgiveness or acceptance of what you did.
Yeah, I think, thanks for that. I think you actually brought that back to the table in a really amazing way to me, Mark. Thank you. It's like a food recovery. Like I recovered, I'm starting to recover from the lack of food quality that we were really starting to maintain. And again, I'm so thankful for the food and for the consistency. And I know that food insecurity is a real thing out there. And I don't want to touch into that harsh moment, but many blessings to anyone. And I give blessings to my food all the time, to what's in front of me. But the reality was the types of food we stocked our shelves with, and the volume of food that maybe was just a little more processed or packaged really was increased. The supply chains were off, and we all kind of, I think, changed our patterns a little. And I stopped even writing a grocery list, which was absolutely wild for me, because I'm hyper organized about my food. Because it didn't really matter. Sometimes there was just not a lot of stuff, and my husband, if he was doing the shopping, we didn't need the stress. So recognizing that we were kind of in that zone where that was the larger portion of how we were eating. It's like, okay, getting a little more live energy food and just a little bit different quality food. It's like, it's sustenance, like it 1%, like, it's just gonna like help lift me up a little bit more. And I'm okay that, sometimes it was like, man, this bag of chips is so good for me right now. Maybe not. And I probably will have more of that again one day. But a long time ago, I gave food, like when I had some bad relationships with food and like wanted to lose weight. I had to qualify all food as good, better, best.
Mm.
I love that.
Good, better,
better, best. That is so good. That speaks to a gentleness with ourselves, which I think is something coming out of COVID and going, through this recovery process and changing the way we do what we do. I think the idea of looking at everything from that vantage point is a really good idea rather than calling things bad, wrong, awful, or I should do this or I should do that, going, well, good, better, and best. I like your genius.
Thank you. You use it, share that out. I've been using that for a long time, long time. And another like kind of analogy, like if there's 10 different facets of our life, money, spirituality, health, food, relationships, on and on. Often people are trying to make large jumps or large changes in any one facet, and sometimes 5 facets at the same time.
Yeah.
I always have said, just do 1% in every category. Oh, that's easy. Now you're 10% higher. Boom.
Well, and there's a talk out there that I can't remember the name of the guy who did it, 1% better, and he talks about the British cycling team hired a coach who came in and said, we just need to do 1% better every day. And it was little things they did, like pillows for when they were traveling. They had to each have their perfect pillow and things like that. They were able to actually improve so much. Like he said, in 5 years, you'll win the Tour de France, but it actually turned out that within 2 years, they won it just by being 1% better. That is sage advice for recovery. 1% better.
And that's really where a lot of my philosophies have come from, was all those years of teaching yoga therapy, and going through my own recovery, because that's how I came to yoga. I was in a very mild car accident, but I had to recover, and I was younger then, much younger, and I didn't have anything broken, so people really, I was young, looked fine, should be fine, but I wasn't. I had double whiplash, so I couldn't sit in certain seats if we were in meetings for too long, because then I'd be stuck like that for 2 days, like stuff like that. And like, we're going back 25 years. So, that wasn't a thing, right? Like, it was like, you're fine. No, actually, I'm not.
What's interesting is I went through a health challenge as well, where I required a walker and, didn't have much mobility and stuff. And what I learned from it was 2 things. One is the average population are a little bit, shall we say, unforgiving of slow-moving people, or intolerant of slow-moving people. And the other thing I learned was empathy, because I can now move again, but I have endless patience for those who can't. And I think that's something that we need to be gentle with ourselves, but we need to be gentle with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I looked young and healthy, or younger than some anyway. And so I would pull into the, disability or the preferred parking, shall we call it. And, every now and again, somebody'd look at me like, why are you here? You don't look like somebody who needs it, but we don't know what's going on beyond the edges here, right?
Yeah.
What's happening in these bodies.
Yeah. And that's a very good point. I mean, with mental health issues, with a whole lot of other health issues, that one cannot see, but know that the person is experiencing. It's so hard for people who haven't experienced that to relate to it and to accept it, because they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, good awareness. Sometimes we've got to go through something to really understand it, so that we can have that empathy.
It's powerful, right?
Mhm.
And that's just one small facet.
Mhm.
But again, being conscious of our own self and being conscientious of others, and that goes back to that action, right? Participate.
Yeah.
Help out,
Participate.
right?
Yeah.
Participate. Like, there's somebody, don't like rush over and grab their stuff and like, can I help you?
Mm.
Right? Like, sometimes somebody, yeah, you can help me get these bags in my car. Great. Let me help you do
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
It's interesting. Since the lockdown, I've noticed a couple of unusual things, I think, in the world around me. One is impatience with drivers. People in their cars are doing the most bizarre things. I've been driving for, I don't know, 40 some odd years, and I've never experienced such consistency of interesting behavior. Making a left-hand turn from a right-hand lane in the midst of traffic, or uh, you know, getting angry at somebody for cutting you off, so throwing a pop bottle at their car. Anyway, it goes on, and I think, wow. And then the other side of it is being at the grocery store and having my millions of bags of groceries that I'm trying to, pack up, and having a gentleman come up who's also doing his groceries. Here, let me help you with that, and bagging my groceries for me, another customer,
Mm.
right? Like, there's this interesting dichotomy that, on one side you've got people raging, and on the other side being ultra generous. And
Mhm.
I and it just depends on the setting.
Mhm.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
Well, if we think back to the trauma, right? There's again, one of my friends who's actually cousin, who's also a friend, is an emerge nurse. And, she made, through conversation, she made me really aware of, again, the trauma, the shared trauma. And what she also talked to me about was the post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mhm.
Yes.
That is also like a blanket over top
Yeah.
of many of us,
Mhm. Mhm.
whether we're aware of it or not. And
Mhm.
so, if people could learn more just about stress response and about personally regulating themselves, there's some really simple stuff that we can do. And
Yeah.
oh,
And yoga is one of them, right?
the work of a yogi is never done. Let me tell you. Breathe, people, breathe.
Yeah.
It's like the work of a minister, never done. Never done.
It's so simple. It's so powerful.
Breathe, breathe.
Breathe, 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 breathe.
And people will look at you and go, I am doing that. Can't you tell?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right up here.
Yeah, exactly.
Diaphragm? What's a diaphragm?
It just shows that we've forgotten how to even breathe properly, right?
Yeah.
It's just like everything, and we're not even aware of these things, and how we function, and how we're actually really not functioning at our optimal, and we don't know what that is.
Yeah, another girlfriend of mine reminded me of, sort of energy leaks.
Mhm.
Right? So, you're with a friend or you're in a situation and there's all this, sort of leaking happening. So, like Marg, like you were, when we were warming up, you had too many tabs open on your computer and it went a little sideways, right? We're very similar, right? So we have too many tabs open, we get stuck too. And what I saw for 2023, like I always use like a recap word, like, or a sentence, like what was the theme this year? And it was, if I had said one more time, I'm sliding into third base. like, whew, hi, okay, I'm here. We're good. Okay. And it was like, just like right here, right now. And then it was like backlog.
Yeah.
There's just such a backlog. And if it was a relay race, I never got any further. But if it was a ladder, I might have got up 1 or 2 rungs. So very stationary, but a little bit of up, but not distance. So that was kind of all the energy that came for me. And, I think if we look at that, it's just, it adds up to kind of where we got to. And where we are, it comes into the awareness again, like over and over and over. I think that probably is the number one word you guys say in your show, right? And so we're with people, but how many things are open in the backlog? How many energy drains are happening? How many projects do we have kind of on the go that we're only getting 1% done instead of like block everything else and get like 10% done? Like they're, and I don't know how last year in general went for you, if some of that's, kind of.
Yeah. Resonates. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, I'm not sure about you other ladies. What do you think?
Well, my last year was all about loss. It's like, the amount of losses I'm just dumbfounded by. All of my pets died, 2 cats and a dog, and had to move, and my mom died. And it's like all of these things, it just sort of was like one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. And it creates another trauma. Lots of good has come out of the year, but those things were really, really heavy. So I'm just really excited about 2024.
I didn't have that much loss, and thank you for sharing that. And I am really, honestly, from human to human, so sorry. And you're all spiritual people. I know that you'll find some solace in it all, but you still have to go through. And I do feel, on top of some of the things that I said, there was a lot of emotional energy that had to get done last year. I did an enormous amount of work on foundational emotional work, relationship emotions. My husband and I celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary. So we decided to get remarried.
Wow, that's awesome.
Love a good party. And it was fun. But there was a lot of, we won a gift card, a very specific gift card. Talk about, follow, right? Just follow the directions and just listen. Sometimes you're not in control, just listen. So I won a gift card, and it was very specific: wedding vow renewal. Random. So I brought it home. Hubby was like, let's do it. And this would be great. I was like, what? Are you like, I figured we were getting a divorce. What? Okay. What? Okay. So of course we weren't that bad, but it had been a tricky couple of years for most of us in our relationships. And what it did was, I then asked, why? Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? And what does it mean? And why would, who are we doing it for? And
great questions.
what energy are we going to bring forward into it? Like, it's ceremony. It has meaning. Like this, I don't do that stuff for fun, So it became this massive deep dive. I almost want to say like a post-mortem of our relationship in a lot of ways, for the first 18 years, 20 years together. And then sort of what's going to, okay, this is the new room. What gets to move forward?
What a beautiful gift. I wonder if the person who even put that gift out there ever thought that it would create such in-depth contemplation and commitment.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
A lot of conversations.
Yeah. We're at our halfway point, so we're going to take a little commercial break. And so don't go away, because we're going to be right back with our remarkable guest, Charlene Biggerstaff, and more interesting conversation to come. Be right back.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe.
Well, welcome back to Spirit Cafe on the New Thought Media Network. We're so excited to be back in person live. Well, not in person, online, but you know what I mean. We're back. No more reruns for a while.
Yeah, we're back, and we have a wonderful guest today, Charlene Biggerstaff, and the conversation so far has just been so rich, and I'm so grateful. So we were chatting about, looking at, you won a prize and you were looking at your marriage and really looking at, what it means, where you're at after 18 years in that. And I think that's such a really lovely thing to do. And I would really, I think it would be important actually for people to do, I think about a time that my husband and I went through a really difficult patch and we came so close to separation. And it wasn't easy. It was a horrible time. And yet I really was able to appreciate after the fact that we came back together was a recommitment. Yeah. And that it certainly did change the direction of the relationship, and if we didn't, we probably would have ended up divorced. So I think these are really good things that come out in our conversations that we should all recognize as something possibly important to do in our lives.
Yeah. And if someone doesn't want to do it in a formal way, I mean, again, we got that gift card and kind of went, well,
let's do it.
It's a sign, right? Like it's a sign, right? Like
yeah,
I love
that.
Signs,
I love that.
right?
Yeah.
We're going to listen to this or what are we going to do? And then, we just started to dig in and there was lots of great stuff. It's
maybe
almost,
that's a good present to give someone that some of us have never thought of.
right? Like it was just, and it was interesting because I didn't think my husband would be into it like at all, but he was very into it. He's a very sweet man. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love an excuse for a new dress. Not gonna lie. And I love a party. That was something else I've done in my past. A lot of event organizing. It's just fun, right? Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite things about a ceremony that type of ceremony is when the minister, reverend, asks, the congregation to sort of say, I'm in too, right? Like, I'm here.
Yes.
And so we had a lot of our original friends and family, and
Mhm.
some new. And, that was a big part of the ceremony, was to say, A, thank you for helping us get to here. You're a
Wow.
part of it.
Mhm.
You're our circle. You're our people. And,
Mhm.
like this, it wasn't like, oh, you're so in love and everything's going to be amazing. It was like, this has been tricky. It hasn't been easy. There's been bumps, but we're stronger for it.
Yeah.
And thank you all for being here. You're in our circle. You've helped us get here, and we're looking forward to another 20 or more. So
I
be
love
here
that.
with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really important when we started to talk about it. That really jumped out for both of us. So as much as it was for us, it was really about our people.
Mm.
Community. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, our community. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think with COVID and everything, we got like a bit far apart, right?
So
And we had a micro community, right? So we were
Yeah.
able to kind of like bring people back in and be like,
Yeah.
right?
Lovely. And the banner at the bottom is, going over the screen, changing the world by participation. And I'm thinking, like, that is such a great example of participation.
Yeah,
Right?
it is.
It's such a great example, because, not like you say, not only are you doing it for yourself, you're doing it for, your family, your friends, your community that have supported you, but you're also inspiring others in what you're doing by doing it. So definitely making a difference that way. So thank you for that.
And being conscious in what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
that's a really important piece for all of us, I think, regardless of what we're doing. If we
Yeah.
can do it consciously and know why we're doing it, rather than just, well, this is the next step.
Mhm.
I think accepting what is and then making a plan for something more,
Yeah.
really powerful. So that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
A
Because a
segue
lot of
into a
people.
question.
Sorry, go, Mark.
A segue into a question that I've having had for Charlene. My dog has come to visit here, so he keeps bumping my arm. So what you had said about participating in the world, is from yoga to politician, Charlene being Charlene, is that your way of participating in the world? One of your ways?
100%, right? And it kind of reminds me when people would ask me, how much yoga do you do? And I'm like, well, are you talking asana? Are you asking me how many down dogs I did this week? Or are you talking about how aware I am every minute, or the breath work I do, or like, and people go, oh, because they're usually asking how many times I've been on the mat. And so, yoga is in motion, right? Because it starts with awareness, right? And for some people, it's not yoga; it's different, right? It's just awareness. But for me, that's how it came through into my life. So that's how I'm able to share that experience. So, there's a lot of contemplations around the yoga discipline, right? And awareness and non-judgment, which is very tricky, for all of us. Non-attachment, there's all of these sort of very heavy ethical pieces that are not done necessarily on the mat. They are maybe your own work, but when you go out into the world, bringing those things forward. So, for an example, as I sit at the table with council, we have many people who come and tell us their perspective. And some of them are mad, some of them are happy, and anything in between. And so it's really easy for someone to pick a side and stick there. But if I use my yoga tools, I'm just simply present. I'm not judging what they're saying. I'm just being right there with them. I don't walk in predetermined. I walk in going, what else am I curious about? who else at the table is going to bring more information forward for me to go, okay, I hadn't thought of it like that. So there's a lot of tools, I think, that I know that I use every day, just being a human in the world, let alone in a moment like this in political history. It's a little sticky, which when I jumped up and said, hey, I'm going to do this, I hadn't really thought of. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I was like, yeah. I was like, we're doing this again. I'm like, yeah. I was like, oh my God. Like, woo, you know, I'm just, because that's just who I am. Because I don't make those decisions. I just all of a sudden go, yeah, and I'm following at this point, and not. It was a conscious decision, but not so much, right? And I feel it. When I feel it, because that's awareness, right? Just like, oh, do I want to run for the election? If I'm like, ugh, or I go, yeah, I didn't pull that at it. Like, that's real. Do you want to do that work? Yes. And people are like, what is wrong with you? You know, it's true. Like, people say to me all the time, like, whoa. And I love it. And it.
Can you imagine if we had more politicians like you with a yogic awareness? Like, oh my goodness. Can you have a yoga class for them in prep for council meetings?
Yeah, right. And you got to be really quiet too. And I know that sounds a bit random, but like, you do a lot of listening. As much as I can talk, like, obviously that's obvious. Like, I love to share. I love to share who I am, my experiences. And if I give one person one little thing that they might even think about, let alone change, whew, magic. You know, so you know, when I think about not being, you know, yoga kind of got into that zone where it was like hyper positive, which was like, no, you got to sit, just like the marriage, you got to sit with the hard stuff before you really understand what the good stuff is sometimes. Like, it's the dark, it's the heavy stuff too, that we have to celebrate and that we have to give honor to. And it's the yin and the yang. Marg, I see that in your symbols behind you, like, so yin and yang. And so when we're out there talking to people, like, they, in a political way, you know, sometimes they want to be really yin and yang, and they want you to be like, okay, let's debate. And I'm like, okay, I can, but I'm okay to let people have their zone right where they are, like, because we aren't all the same, and we do have different philosophies, and stay really curious. So there's so many tools. Like, again, you got to sit at the table and do a lot of listening, and that takes not having a bunch of those tabs on.
That's a great way of putting it, Charlene, to close some of the tabs and just allow yourself to be open to whatever shows up, right? Like, it is what it is, and now what? And something is going to come that's going to be uplifting or challenging, but it's going to be life. And I think sitting in it, whatever it looks like, is the most important thing that we can do, because every single thing that we experience is breaking something open for us, or moving something away from us, or drawing something to us. And if we can be in that place of surrender, we're actually in a place of real power. And listening is such a big part of that.
Yeah. So it's so transferable skills. I don't know if it really makes sense on a dotted line, but it's huge transferable skills. And just my own awareness, right? So I get into a place where someone is super upset, and they probably have every right to be, like, like the list of stuff that's gone wrong, right? And so if I get all up in my business, I'm not serving them. How am I participating? I'm not participating in a way that gives that energy of anger or disillusionment or whatever it is, like, what frustration, whatever their thing is, you know, like, okay, let's get them wielding that and let's get that. And can they use that Aggie that we call fire and get into action, right? And I don't mean, mean and terrible things. No, but how do we get them feeling, how do we get people, ourselves included, feeling like we're participating in our lives, in our community, around us, and activating some of this, I don't know if it's COVID trauma or everything else in the world or whoever, whatever. It just, there's opportunities. Every day there's opportunities. And I think it comes through hope.
I agree. And if we can sit with each other with a level of patience, empathy, and a willingness to listen, I think we can build some remarkable bridges.
And people don't have to be hyper positive, right? And going back to that sort of, it's not that. That I already broached as a yoga teacher. I would have other teachers coming to me in a mentorship sort of space, and this is when we have a lot of bombings all over the world, and what. And it's like, and they're about to teach a class, and they're like, I'm like, because you got to get the people to sit down and just reflect on the bombing that just happened in Paris, and deal with that. Like, we got to get through what's in front of us, not get to, oh, it's okay. It's kind of not okay. It's kind of,
I won't believe you. I won't believe you if you approach me in that fashion. I won't believe you.
Right. And I'm not going to teach like that. Like, nobody's going to come back to that level of authenticity. Like, it wasn't. And that's just trauma, just squishing it down. Like, good luck. So yeah, being really honest. I remember in the campaign, like, I knock on the doors and people like, no time, super great people. Wow, I've got a great community, a lot of laughs. People remembered me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But sometimes I get someone who's a little grumpy, and I'm like, yeah, that does suck. I'd be mad too. I don't think they ever heard anyone say that before. They were like, what? Yeah, you should be mad. I probably can't change it.
Powerful.
Right? And then I'd be honest, but I probably can't change that. They're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, that's healthcare. Wrong department. But yeah, And I mean it really honest. Like, but
yeah. But you gave them the space to vent, and they felt heard. Yeah. They felt like you listened, right? And I think that's such an important piece that we underestimate.
And then I get to take some of those tidbits, even if it isn't in my lane. So I get to move it forward to people like you. It's in your lane, maybe a little bit, or adjacent. Or I get to lobby up to the higher levels, and sit in some pretty cool circles and bring it to the table again. I was with the minister the other day, opening up a store. Never met him before. Nice gentleman. Shook my hand. He said, let me know, I'd like to have a meeting with you in the new year. Let me know if your community needs anything. We need more autism dollars, programming dollars, and 100 other things. And of course, he laughed at the 100 other things. But he's like, okay, let's talk about it. I had spent time with local business. They really had given me the framework of what's happening in that sector right now, or what's not happening, and the big gaps that are happening, and how families are struggling around those gaps. And there was a moment I was able to just take an action, right. And it's like, I don't know if I did anything, but I'm gonna maybe.
Because there's a connection there, right? It's like you leave with that connection. That's just, I'm going to say, can fire one up, because you feel it, right? You can feel when there's a connection and when there isn't. And that's what inspires us to, I think, to keep going.
Yeah. Lots of action. Like, there's so many opportunities. Again, we've talked about it. Opening the door for someone can be participation and action. We were taken away from our sense of community in a lot of ways, and we know that volunteerism and being a part of community and just saying hi to the person at the cash register, or the person walking down the street. These are massive indicators for health, mental health, and longevity, because that's one everybody's looking for.
Yeah.
So, just reintegrating those things into our life, profound movement and action. And you know what? We feel more a part of something. We feel more a part of our community. We feel more welcomed.
Absolutely.
I just don't know where the downfall is.
Yeah. I heard a story the other day, and it really, really inspired me, about somebody giving. They had seen somebody who was obviously struggling to make a living on the street, and the person asked for help, and so he pulled out what money he had, and he had a $20 note and he had a $50 note. Some of us might say we don't have change. He looked at that and he gave him the $50 note. And this guy said, wow, like I don't remember the last time somebody gave me a $50 note. Thank you. But the point of the story is that person who gave left feeling so good that he could do that, and that he chose to do that. And that was like such a yes moment for him and how he felt, which is huge, which is, again, how we change the world by participation. Even giving is taking, or, in that kind of way, with give and take, or karma, as you so socially receive. He received that wonderful, uplifting, great feeling of being able to do that and actually doing it, choosing to do it.
Yeah. And the person received it.
Yes, and the person received it 100%, right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was just, for me, I really appreciated hearing that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I think it's important that what you're saying, Cheryl, you really appreciated hearing that. And I think when we were talking about how do we do this, and I think it's by hearing and also letting somebody know, when you open that door for that person, that is changing the world one step at a time, one action at a time. Because I think it's not validation, that's not the word I'm looking for, but telling someone that it matters.
Recognition, I think it's
recognizing. I think it's important to hear it.
Yeah.
It's basic civility.
Yeah.
just kindness, and don't forget, like COVID, we had to like stay away, right? Like, even if we're neighbors, like it was like whether we agreed with it, didn't agree with it, like all of that aside, that's where we were. And that's how we kind of like started to draw the box around ourselves. And I think that some of that is still in play, right? With all of these layers that we, briefed on today. I really look forward to, I mean that in the nicest of ways, some of the studies that I think are going to come out of this, 5 and 10 years later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's really where I think we're gonna see some stuff, and if we can, as individuals, become more aware of where we are, more aware of the layers of recovery that are possible. We've talked about, in our social aspects and just day to day, emotionally, through our relationships, our intimacy, like all of these, financial, because that got a little beaten up for most of us too. And, it's not a cheap world in the moment. So, there's opportunities for us to do an awful lot of recovery in every sector. And then I want to say it's almost like a baseline. Understanding those baselines, just getting a little more honest, a little more real. It's like trying on a bathing suit in the dark versus in the store. Like it's just
I'll
a
take
little,
dark.
right? It's a little more real at the beach, right? Like, and so and that's so it's relatable, right? It's not a favorite. So, getting real, getting really, really real, bringing in all those compassions, and then starting to take small actions. 1%. I love that 1%, and like they won the race like big time. Like
Absolutely.
I just thought it was some cute theory. It worked for me. Who knew?
Yeah, I know. 1% better every day. It's
Love that. Yeah. And just think, like, even just people, sorry, Barbara, I know we're coming to an end. Even just people making an effort to smile at somebody in the street, or to open a door for somebody and smile each and every day, or, that day, even just that creates, again, that little bit of connection. And I see you, and even just hearing the word thank you is really lovely.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Generally, like I live in a, about a 50,000 person community. It's 3 main towns with some smaller hamlets, and our main town is like about 30,000. So we're still pretty small town. So there's lots of people that are kind, and like this is their vibe, and this is where they are. But I'm lucky. We're lucky. I'm lucky for that. But I do see that people are a bit more distracted. They have a lot of things on at the same time. They got a lot of energy suckers happening. So being a little more present, I think would the yogis used to say, the more present you are, the longer time is.
Wow.
Love it.
That's interesting.
Well, and as we're down to our last 2.5 minutes,
Right?
what is one thing that you would like people to take away from this conversation? What one thing would make a difference, do you think, Charlene?
I really think in this moment, people need to be really kind to themselves.
I love that.
Right? I mean, we've talked about a lot of ways and this and that, but we've heard a lot of words about resiliency, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I think we need to be very consciously committed to being really cautious and kind to ourselves, and really taking care of ourselves. And if people aren't sure what that even means, then that's the first thing they need to do. Because for some people, it's a hot chocolate. Other people, it's a day at the spa. Sometimes it is just going through your financial records. Like what is taking care of yourself? Maybe like it and expand one's idea of self-care.
And look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you. I really love you.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, say, I'm willing to love you.
I'm willing to learn how to love me.
There you go.
Like
Mark, what about you? Any final words or thoughts?
We're super lucky to be here. Sorry, Mark. Yeah, like.
Oh, that's okay. Yes, I'm just blown away. Can't wait to have you back, Charlene.
Yeah.
We can talk for a whole lot longer here.
Just the stuff
I think we just touched the surface. Touched the surface.
I'm a bit of a contemplator. I think you've noticed that, and there's so much, that we could just be doing more kindly for our own selves. We're really hard on ourselves. We just got through epic situation, and nobody's even really talking about that.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Cheryl, 10, 15 seconds. What do you got?
Listen to Charlene. Take Charlene's advice.
Make it easy, right? And then you know what? Put it in your calendar. Plan your downtime. How about this one? Put something in your calendar that's just a blocker that you don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's a
Ah.
good idea.
Ooh, like
Well, on that note, we got to say goodbye. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Charlene, for being here. Cheryl, Marg, you are awesome. And for everybody who's been watching, we love you. We appreciate you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You're watching the New Thought Media Network, and this is Spirit Cafe. See you next